Yo, what is up, everybody? Fresco back again. Another story from the collection Macabre Minds, written by Auntie Hart. Remember to check out the links below, show love to the author, comment, like, and subscribe. Story 9, Hoarding Love. My mother was a hoarder. I suppose it came on subtlety enough, emerging gradually like a newborn bird that we had barely noticed until it became a problem. We had always thought of her as a saint, the way she worked at the local veterinary clinic, helping animals. But she began bringing her euthanasia patients home when I think the process proved too difficult for her subconscious to handle. It started with a tiny puppy that had been crushed by a car but still had breath in its little lungs. I remember my brother and I playing with it delicately till the day it died. The next one was an old cat, skinny and graying with bulging green eyes, and my brother and I cried when he died so soon after the puppy. My mother sobbed harder, holding the animal in her arms that she had only tried to save. Saving lives is what she did. Our number of animals grew as she brought them into our lives. And it was fun when we were young, and the numbers were manageable. But she brought home more and more. Suddenly, our lives became hell. Layers of filth coated the floor. My brother and I played with toys as much as we'd made towers of the excrement. We only ate takeout, for the freezer was filled with rotting corpses of animals my mother could not get rid of. The stench of ammonia followed us like a reaper, and we went to school covered in filth. That's when the people in suits took us away from our mother. That was the last time I had seen her. And that was also the last time I had seen my brother as we drove away in separate cars. I spent some time in foster families until my current family adopted me. Mary and Damien are lovely parents. I wouldn't want my life any other way. But of course, my life could not be normal. Of course, the peace had to be disrupted like a knife stabbing into a beating heart. I received a letter stating that my mother was dead when I was just entering my 20s. My brother had also passed away due to cancer years before. I was then the sole inheritor of her house. Dread filled me to the core. I didn't want to go back to the house that held so much death and anguish for me. But Mary and Damien pushed me to at least try. Besides, since I had been in and out of jail, they thought it would do me good to have a project to keep my spastic, troublemaking mind busy. And that's how I came to stand in front of my mother's house. I could smell the decay from the street, and I knew that her hoarding situation could never have been resolved. I knew what I would find within, but I would never have been prepared for what I really found. Dead cats and dogs littered the floor instead of carpeting. Shit scenting the walls and furniture like paint. I gagged and threw up in a bin that held a litter of stale kittens. I thought, having lived in the filth before, I could handle it now that I was older. Oh, how wrong I was. I started in the living room, heaving out the carcasses and bones, black bags, and scrubbing the blood and shit stains off with at least 10 different types of brushes, cleaners. I quickly grew accustomed to the smell again, and I worked by myself in the middle to death. Mary and Damien tried helping me. They were unable to manage the horrifying sights, the way the dead animals cast shadows on the brown, crimson walls from the light and the ceiling fan. It took me a whole month just to create the illusion of perfection in the living room. But I eventually moved a couple couches in and paintings to give the entrance a sense of homeliness. I next moved on to the bedrooms, then the bathrooms, and then also the ceilings, pulling dead cats from the holes and cracks from the maximum limit of the house. I was always a paranoid individual, but a whole while I could feel the eyes of the deceased glued to my guilty frame. The house creaked and groaned from where the urine had soaked through the foundation, and was that scuttling I could hear coming just from her room? I knew my mother. She kept the dying, not the living. That thought calmed me just enough that I was able to be in the house by myself. After all, the living are much more terrifying than the dead. There was a spot in the house I was hesitant to traverse. The cellar, where the washer and dryer made home, not much else, was off limits to my brother and I. That was where she kept her special animals, and where we assumed that was where some ounce of cleanliness due to the time she spent down there. But there was always something off about the cellar, like how a shadow sometimes moves sinisterly in the moonlight, or like how your hair's pricked up even though there's no one around. I think I remember my brother and I telling each other ghost stories about the cellar, and about how all the dead animals' ghosts resided underneath the house crypt. We never trespassed into the cellar, and I was nervous to do so, even as an adult. But despite some mistrust of situations, I was a realist. Time in jail would do that to a person, so I manned up and opened the cellar door. The stench greeted me with an unmistakable, sickly, sweet odor of death. The darkness grabbed at me, pulled me down steep, unfinished stairs, and I fumbled for a light switch. I wish I had just left the devil to weave his evil alone, but I found the switch, and the lights cascaded the cellar. Oh, Mom, I gasped, shaking my head at the sight. Dirt lined the floor along the plethora of shovels. Some dead animals, mostly completely decayed, sat on the dryer, and it was what else the cellar held that caused me to empty my stomach again. The corpse of human sat propped on the washing machine. I called Mary and Damien, who contacted the cops, much to my disdain. The corpse was almost mummified and its skin sawed off in horrifying piles around the machine. Its eyes, now just holes, gaped open in terror at the world of the dead. DNA testing proved it would be my brother. Piecing together the dirt and shovels, I made a trip to my brother's burial site, where I uncovered an empty coffin. My mother was a hoarder. She believed in saving those that could not otherwise be saved. But she also believed in something beautiful about death, something that made her unable to get rid of what she loved. And I realize this now. She loved my brother, and I had taken all that she loved. The house is clean now, and I find it rather empty living alone. Now I just wonder if I can get rid of my brother's skeleton's hand I stole from this corpse, the only thing that I had saved from the house of horrors. I just wonder, as I am now in college working towards my nursing degree, if I can love as wholly as my mother and fill the home with her adoration again. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the end of our story.